Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jermaine Morgan. You're watching Jermaine Morgan TV. I appreciate you tuning in. Today, I got a good friend of mine, Mr. Sean Michael Ray. You know what we do. We're going to jam a little bit, and I'm going to ask him some questions and get some tips about longevity in this music business. So y'all hang around. We'll be right back. Dude, welcome, man.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Good.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
Yes, sir. Good to have you here, man. I wanted to get you out, man. I've been admiring your stuff for a minute. I've been listening to you for years. Hearing Sean Michael Ray.
So you were the one,
right?
the one person that admired it.
No, dude. No, it's funny, man. I used to hear your name. Many people don't know I went to school in Florence, North Alabama over there.
I don't think I knew that.
UNA, yeah. And when I got over there, your name and a couple other cats were like some of the main names out here all the time. It was like you, Norris Jones,
Jonestown.
Yeah, Kelvin Wooten.
That's my boy.
Several other cats, but y'all were like the top, cats that I would always hear about when I was in Florence. So when I moved to Atlanta, had the opportunity to meet you, and I think you're the one that officially kind of turned me on to TC Electronics.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So,
welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So what's going on, dude? What you got going on now?
Man, just the usual array of sideman stuff. That's pretty much how I make the bulk of my living.
Okay.
Just supporting other artists. It's been 3 years since I did my freshman CD, if you will, and so I'm conceptualizing tunes for a new record. It's a funny thing when you doing your first record. I've been a sideman all my life. Doing that first record, I didn't really know what my voice was.
Okay.
So, even though I'm proud of the record, is I kind of mimicked what my heroes did.
Gotcha.
Kind of mimicked Marcus and tried to do that kind of thing. And along the way, I discovered that that's not what I want to do. Like, I don't really want to be a smooth jazz artist. Not to say that Marcus is a smooth jazz artist, but if you're an instrumentalist, they're gonna throw you in that basket regardless, because there's nowhere else to put you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a little more on the vocal side of things. That was the music that influenced me the most. It was R&B when I was growing up.
Okay.
But now it's called old school. Today's R&B is something else. But your Earth, Wind and Fire, Daz Band, Confunction, Cameo, Ohio Players, like that's my stuff.
Gotcha.
Although I love all kinds of music. I play all genres, rock and everything, but that's like my favorite stuff. So some kind of way on this next record, I'm going to get back to that.
Gotcha. Well, that's really cool, man. I think I ran into that. First, getting past the fear of actually doing a record was the biggest thing for me. And I think as a bass player and you're doing a solo record, you got that. You think everybody wants you to solo.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
it is a solo record.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. But as you get into it, you figure out, okay, it's not necessary that I have to solo on every song, or if I have to solo at all. But I think that's a really important thing, finding your voice, kind of knowing who you are, knowing what you want to do. Because there are some people who have records out and they do no soloing on them at all, and they're phenomenal records.
Absolutely.
And even Michael Lee, for one, that Snarky Puppy, he rarely takes a solo, but he's a phenomenal composer, phenomenal writer.
Absolutely.
And case in point. So yeah, man. So who are some of the people? I know that you work with tons of artists over the years. Who are some of the, I guess, your most memorable people that you work with over the years?
I guess first on the list, I have to say my hometown, longtime homeboy Eric Essex, because that's where I cut my teeth on music. We were in our first band together when I was 18, and boy, I tell you, you're 18, you're learning how to play. I started playing when I was 15. You're practicing your stuff in the bedroom, and you're like, man, I got this lick worked out. I'm gonna play this tonight.
Exactly.
And those guys are a few years older than me. Eric and the drummer was Hosier Anderson, and Mark Ford was a keyboard player who's going on now. God rest his soul. But those guys, man, they gave it to me in rehearsal because I was a young guy. Like, man, you're playing too busy.
Wow.
No, man, stop right there. No, you're playing the wrong note. You're playing. And I would leave there with my tail between my legs, like, man, goodness. So. I look back on that and I appreciate it now because, it really helped me to be disciplined in what I was playing because those guys didn't let me slide on anything. So Eric, I would have to say, was my biggest influence, and I still play with him to today, to this very day. But along the way, there've been, a lot of people that have played a major role in that development because I've played different genres, which, like I played 4 years in John Waite's band, who's like a British pop star, rock guy. But, playing that stuff where you're playing mostly eighth note kind of grooves all night, there was nothing funky about it.
Yeah.
And we even played the Grand Ole Opry. A lot of my peers hadn't played the Grand Ole Opry.
That's
Yeah. So, but it was just a different kind of discipline because, a guy that was quote unquote a funky jazz gospel-y guy was playing that kind of music, and it's just a different discipline to learn. So it was cool, and I always loved rock music. So I always consider myself to be a chameleon. I could kind of blend into any genre. So
you mentioned a good point about discipline. You mentioned it with Eric Essex, who's a phenomenal player, by the way. I've heard Eric several times, man. That dude is he's amazing. I'm a guitar player, so I always respect great guitar players when I hear them. But you mentioned something about the discipline, and they would tell you to stop. And I think that's when you're first beginning and you kind of learn how to play a little bit and think you can play a little bit. I think that's really good to have somebody to be on you, kind of tell no,
Absolutely.
stop.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, and I think we got a lot of. I don't want to sound like I'm dissing this generation because I know a lot of older musicians sometimes kind of get on the younger cats about playing too much, doing way too much, and I'm kind of in between that age group. But we do have a lot of disciplined young cats coming up, and at the same time, there are a lot of young cats coming up who don't have that discipline. And I think it's what you're saying. It's a lack of having somebody to kind of slap them on the wrist, that kind of thing. We had it. For me, I kind of got it in the quartet scene.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
And growing up, I think my worst moment happened in church. Just kind of knowing when to play and knowing when to pull back. It was this pastor who was preaching, and I was new to the guitar, and he started doing something. He started tuning up. I'm from an old school Baptist church, so they still hoop back then, and some of them still do it now.
Man, you got to tell your audience what hooping is.
Yeah,
man.
come on, man. Hooping is like when they're saying they were talking about a sermon or whatever, and God said, and it's got that kind of thing. Yeah, all that kind of stuff going on. So normally in church, as musicians, we call tune up behind them, and that's just playing behind them, ad-libbing, a lot of improvisational stuff. But not too busy. It's just you really just accompanying the person that's speaking. So I get my guitar out. I done learned a few chords, a couple of runs, and I start tuning up on here. Wait, son, in front of the whole church, and that just made me kind of just shrink all the way back down. And so it taught me like always wait, or wait to be asked to come out rather than just trying to show or do something just because you can do it, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Like you're saying, having that person to just kind of slap you on the wrist and be like, hey, no, you don't need to do this here.
Now, in similar fashion, before Eric, I grew up playing in a holiness church with my mom, who's a minister of music.
Okay.
And she would do that too. Like where I would stand in the church was in the front. It's just the way the building was made.
Okay.
So I was standing in front, and if you were playing something messing up, she'd just say stop. Just don't play. Just don't play. And so I'm just standing there in the front of the church holding my bass. All the little girls watching.
Everybody looking at you get embarrassed.
I'm just holding it. And so if there was ever any incentive to go home and practice, that was it.
Yeah. So like I said, that thing, I think those little moments like that, it really does something for your playing because it reminds you that you, one, haven't arrived yet.
Yep.
You're not there. And you need that guy, you need that person, and I think it brings up another point for me. And I don't consider you old, even though you say different sometimes. But like the older generation, because I think there's a baton that's slightly being passed to the younger generation of musicians. But I think sometimes because of this age of YouTube and that kind of thing, the younger musicians can get better a lot faster. Even YouTube wasn't out when I started playing, believe it or not. But it's I think because they can learn and have access to information so much faster and can get good fast, they kind of miss some of the fundamental things that I think the older generation got the hard way, having to just sit down and learn records and that kind of thing. And there's not an appreciation for the person that went out before you. And I think it's important that the cats coming up don't forget to respect the ones who went out before you and did this thing and kind of, paved the way, so to speak, for you. I think it's very important that you pay respect. Not be like if you're playing at a church with an older musician, that kind of thing, don't be in there laughing at them. Don't be in there trying to poke fun at somebody because you think you're better than they are. They might just be exercising discipline and you think they can't play.
Right.
That kind of thing. So, I mean,
I think the genres of music have changed. They've flipped. like I said earlier, R&B is not what it used to be. You know, you hear R&B singer now, it's probably going to be mostly MIDI production.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably programmed drums, probably synth bass, probably, you know, when I was growing up, R&B was a band. There were R&B bands. Like I think Mint Condition is probably the last band standing.
Wow.
The last real modern R&B band that we know of. But back then, everybody was a band. So everybody played parts. So that's what, growing up, that's what we heard. We heard what the bass player's role was. We heard what the guitar player's role was, what the keyboard player's role was, what the drummer's role was. And I don't think the younger generation, for them to get that, they have to go back and listen to that music.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing really concrete today that they can listen to reference that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just like what you're saying, respecting those that came before you. Football players, basketball players do it. They go back and watch an old film of Dr. J, Michael Jordan, or whatever, seeing the guys that paved the way for them. That's the same thing that younger musicians need to do.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, anyway.
No. I totally agree. It's necessary because I learned a long time ago you can gain something valuable from anybody. Even if somebody you don't like, you don't necessarily like the way they play. You don't. I was always told to listen to all kind of music, even the stuff you don't like, because There's always something you can pull from that when you kind of pull on that information or that source of information. There's always going to be something there you can pull from. Old folks told me to eat the meat and spit out the bones kind of thing. So it's something that you can get from everybody. So, and I think that kind of perpetuates that whole idea of respect that's kind of being lost now.
Yeah.
And that respect can come from how I treat you when I talk to you, or how I treat you when we're playing in the band together. Because if I don't respect you, I'm not going to allow you the opportunity to speak. I'm going to always be the one that has to have something to say, that kind of thing, rather than backing off, playing my, like you're saying, playing my part and let you talk.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of that was perpetuated in gospel music too, still to this very day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you have a guy, for instance, sitting, your band is getting ready to play in church, and say you're playing at a convention, and the other musicians are around, they're standing around you like, okay, show me something.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking, what about the song? Does the song say that you can do that? Does the song allow you to do that? The song dictates everything. The song may not allow you to play a whole lot of notes.
Yeah.
The song may not allow you to even shine. You know, it depends on the composition. But I think a lot of the guys I'm not beating up gospel musicians, but I'm just saying a lot of the younger guys in gospel, they have that kind of attitude, and they bring that out to the secular world of music too, where it's like, okay, yeah, he didn't do nothing for me. Yeah, he didn't really play anything to do anything for me. But I'm like, were you listening to the music though?
Yeah.
Maybe the music didn't allow him to do that.
Yeah.
It's about the composition. And so I think it takes those guys a while to reach that maturation process where they're thinking about the music over the playing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the music dictates everything. And sometimes it'll allow you to do your thing.
Yeah.
It just depends on what the composition is, you know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because the music should be the thing that's highlighted and not necessarily the musician, unless it's your show.
Yeah, it's your record.
It's your record and your show. One thing I wanted to ask you about, one thing I noticed when I finally got the opportunity years ago to actually see you play for myself, I heard stories about you, but one of the things that really, outside of your playing, obviously, was your stage presence. Because that's something I've been working on for years. Because, again, the way I came up, you just sit there and you play. Don't draw no attention to yourself. None of that kind of stuff. Most of the players that I admired and I looked up to growing up, they would just, they'd sit there in one spot and kill, wouldn't move. The whole Lee Williams thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They'd sit there and just kill. But I noticed your stage presence, and I guess it got a lot to do with the artists that you play with, is very like you on the stage when you're up there. What would be your advice to cats that are actually working on that area? Because we talk about the area of playing, but your stage presence is something that's very important as well.
I would say think about it in terms of the people that are paying money to see you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like put yourself on the other side. If you were going to see somebody play and you paid your $10 or your $15 at the door, and you come in and you just see a cat sitting down chilling, and you just playing. Like, we're not just bass players, we're entertainers. And that's the way I view that, And I'm not knocking anybody that sits down to play, because I look at all the clubs around town. You go in Cafe 290, there's a stool up there for the bass player. A lot of places there's a stool. So a lot of guys, sit down on the game. I just never view it that way. I never want to sit down and play, because I feel like people have paid money to see you not just play, they paid money to see you perform. And so my biggest influence, my first influence to play bass was Verdine White and Earth, Wind & Fire. And so I watched that guy. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this dude is all over the place and he's having fun doing it. I was like, he's performing. He's not just playing bass, he's actually performing. And so that's my mindset. And I never want to shortchange anybody that, paid their hard-earned dollar to come see me play with somebody. Like, okay, this guy looks like he's just watching the clock and waiting,
Exactly.
Yeah, I never wanted to be that way. So
I guess it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, going back and studying like your Verdine Whites and those kind of players to just kind of see how they own the stage. And especially for me, I really started working on, just being transparent here, I really started trying to work on my stage presence from a instrumental perspective, because they already call us elevator music. And so, and it's most of the time, unless you're a Victor Wooten and or some other amazing player that you just captivate people because you're so amazing.
And he is that.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do much because you're already just amazing. If you're just kind of somebody you're pretty good, but the average person don't understand what you're playing, and you're a bass player, that's a good opportunity to go outside and go take a bathroom break or that kind of thing.
Right.
You do your whole set, so had to figure out ways to make sure I'm owning the stage and becoming more entertaining to watch, because for me I was the opposite. I didn't think it was necessary because I've been the side man all the years. I didn't think nobody was looking at me anyway. I'm just, back here in the cut. But you find out on bigger stages, bigger platforms, people are actually watching you.
Yeah, we have a saying that people listen with their eyes.
Absolutely.
And they actually do. You got to think about it. If somebody comes into a venue and they sit down, when they sit down, they can actually focus on you for the entire time.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at your shoes, your pants, your shirt. Why did he wear that? Oh, wow, really? Okay, he looked like he got his beard trimmed. They're looking at all of that stuff. And so your presentation is important. Sometimes I've actually practiced that stuff in the mirror.
Really?
Just, not like choreography, but just getting used to moving.
Okay.
I always saw Verdine do it. Now, having said that, my favorite bass player of all time is quoted as he thinks the bass should be played sitting down. That's Anthony Jackson.
Really?
Yeah, he thinks the instrument should be played that way. He never stands up. He's always sitting down. But he's got crazy presence sitting down. If you ever see a video of Anthony playing, you see the faces.
Yeah, I've seen.
Unbelievable. Yep. Note selection is just
and
crazy.
You don't. With that, you don't pay attention to the fact that he's sitting down. And I think it still kind of goes to the whole stage presence thing, whether you're standing up or whether you're sitting down. It's the fact that you're not sitting there looking like a knot on the log.
Exactly.
And something
look
about
like you want to be there.
Yeah, and my thing is trying to find a fine line between being gimmicky and being entertaining. Like it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But some people can they look like they got antics going on stage. Like, hey, look at me, and I'm trying not to be that guy. But just finding a balance between that and having a little more energy and that kind of thing on the stage. And it actually, for me, I saw it started getting better when I actually really, really started enjoying what I was doing versus focusing on trying to make sure I'm not messing up, make sure I'm playing the right notes and all this. Like, you got so much anxiety that you're not really enjoying yourself, and people can sense that when you're playing. Okay, this dude is like, he's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think the venue dictates a lot of that too.
Okay.
You're on a bigger stage where you got room. If you got your wireless, man, you can act a fool a little bit. You can go out to the edge and play up to some people, make some eye contact. If we're playing a smaller venue like a small club, well, obviously, you don't have that kind of freedom to roam.
Exactly.
So, but you can still groove in your little spot. Sometimes we just shoulder to shoulder in some of these places, but I still want to do my thing.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that's some cool stuff, man. Like I said, it was just a few tips I want, just some things that I've noticed from young bass player to mature bass player, just seeing you do and working over the years, and I guess while we're there, how do you think you've maintained so much? Because you've been in the industry for a second, Doc, working.
Oh man, I think the number one thing with me has always been, execution is always a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants somebody that's going to play their songs right and have good feel and good time and all of that. So, you work on that. I think, we're both church boys. We play in church every week too. So the one thing about that is every week of my life I'm learning songs.
Okay.
Every week. I mean, there's never a week that I'm not learning somebody's music.
You right.
So I never thought about it until just recently. I'm practicing all the time. I'm practicing some different groove, some different lick, something all the time, every week. So that kind of keeps you sharp, because I notice that it pays dividends when I'm learning somebody else's music and there's a lick that may have at one point been a hard thing for me to play. I was like, well, dang, I'm figuring it out pretty quickly because I've been playing it, stuff that's similar to it in so many other kinds of songs.
Absolutely.
So that's a cool thing. The other thing for me is I'm a tone freak. So I've always wanted, in a world with a whole lot of bass players and a whole lot of guys that are just incredible players. I mean, here in Atlanta, yourself, two of my favorites, Daryl Freedman, Trey, you got Aaron Clay, you got John Roberts. I mean, we can just keep going on and on. And forgive me if I left anybody out, because there's a bunch of y'all that's just incredible. So the thing is, you try to find your niche to say, not what makes me better than those guys, but what makes me stand out. And my tone is always the thing. And so I've always been a stickler for, I'm basically a jazz bass guy. I play carving basses, but they're pretty much quintessentially jazz basses.
Okay.
And we could get into that. That could get really, really technical if we got into that. I don't think the viewers will want to. we start getting into pickup spacing and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just a tone that I always heard. Verdine was a jazz bass player. I mean, I've always loved Marcus. I love Alex Al. I love the way it comes across. If you're playing a melody, or it's just a real thick sound, and everybody doesn't know how to get it. And so I noticed that, so I was like, man, if I can make this thing pop and have it clear, it'll probably be one of the distinctive qualities that I can use, as a player. So.
Gotcha. Cool deal, man. Well, yeah. Well, you pretty much covered it all, and I can obviously hear it when I hear you play.
I appreciate it, bro.
It's definitely there.
Still working on it.
Man, you killing it, man. Like I said, it's been an honor having you here, dude.
Yeah,
and
the honor is mine, bro.
Being able to share it with you. I think that's the first time we ever just sat down and played together.
Absolutely.
So that was pretty cool, pretty awesome. So I'll put this guy's contact information where you can follow him on social media and all this kind of stuff. This dude is all over the place, all the time. You can catch him with Eric Essex Band, as he said earlier. And I don't know who all else he plays with.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I don't know.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys watching. Tune in next week. I don't know who we're going to have. Just stay tuned. I'll know later. But y'all take care. We out.